trespass in my domain, mortal. No matter where you hide, I will find you. You will yield to death. Your soul is mine. The end is upon you.
Zovaal, the Banished One, the Dark One, the Jailer, one of the least intimidating bad guys in Warcraft lore.
Sometimes I think, when I look up real high,
Whatever you want to call him, but is he really a bad guy? Or is he just misunderstood? Or is his entire story arc based on retconned information that the writers came up with halfway through BFA? Anyways, this video will detail the story of Zovaal, but to talk about Zovaal, we really need to mention the Eternal Ones. The Eternal Ones are comprised of Archon Kyrestia, ruler of the Kyrian, the Winter Queen, ruler of the Night Fae, Sire Denathrius, ruler of the Venthyr, the Primus, ruler of the Necrolords, and Zovaal, the original Arbiter. Now, the Arbiter's main purpose is to judge souls who die and are sent to the Shadowlands, to then redistribute them amongst the different realms. Now, the Eternal Ones make up what is called the Pantheon of Death. Now, they have been described as Titan-like, although Ian Azacostas has described the Jailer as Titan++ level. His words exactly. Now, how did Zovaal exactly turn into the antagonist of today's WoW, of Shadowlands? Well, each of the Eternal Ones guarded a sigil that had untold power, and Zovaal pretty much saw these sigils and wanted all of the power for himself. So he tried to forcefully take them, but he was defeated. 4-on-1 didn't work out too well for him, so a sigil was stripped from him and used to construct a new Arbiter. That's why he has the gaping hole in his chest. Now, due to this betrayal, the Primus of Maldraxxus used domination magic to bound Zovaal to the Maw so he could never leave. This is sort of how he dubbed the name the Jailer. In fact, the magic of the Heart of the Forest with an Ardenweald was used to imprison Zovaal in the Maw. Now, with Zovaal trapped inside the Maw, he wasn't sorry for what he did. No, he only became more angry and malicious. Zovaal allied himself with like-minded individuals such as Denathrius, another Eternal One, and the original Loa of Death, Muzala. Denathrius wanted unlimited power and believed Zovaal had grown strong enough within the Maw to know how to acquire this power. Therefore, Denathrius just gave his sigil to Zovaal. Then there's the Loa Muzala. Now, Muzala made a pact with the Titanic Keeper, Odin. Muzala took one of Odin's eyes, so Odin could peer into the Shadowlands to see what all the hubbub was about. This actually allowed Odin to create the first Valkyr, the Valkyr of Light, which imitated the Kyrian. These are, of course, in contrast to the Scourge Valkyr, which served Arthas. Now, since Muzala and Zovaal are buddy-buddy, he essentially gave Zovaal Odin's eye, which allowed him to transform it into the eye of the Jailer. This allowed Zovaal to see all that happened within the Maw at any given moment. Muzala also allied with Helia, who was the first Valkyr, and brought her to the Jailer's rule. Now, while all this was going on, the Primus became suspicious, since he noticed the Jailer's power sort of spilling out of the Maw. So he left Maldraxxus to investigate what was going on, but he left a message behind in his absence. The message was to the other Eternal Ones, which essentially stated to let them know that they needed to keep their guard up and to not allow Zovaal to reach the Sepulchre. Now, let's pause a minute. The Sepulchre was a mysterious location that had secrets of the First Ones. And the First Ones are pretty much the greatest beings in the entire everything. More than the old gods, Titans, the Light and the Void, more than Shadowlands itself. The First Ones were in fact the architects of Oribos, and Zovaal couldn't reach it, or bad things would happen, of course. And the Primus believed that if Zovaal acquired all the sigils, that he would be able to reach it. Anyways, the Primus traveled to Korthia and gave a sigil to the attendants there. The attendants are led by the Arbiter herself, as mentioned before. Now, he did this because he was about to go into the Eye of the Beast. No pun intended. He traveled to the Maw to see what was up. Zovaal comes out of nowhere and Kembo slices the Primus. It went something like that. The Jailer then jailed the Primus, literally. He also stripped him of all of his memories, turning him into the Rune Carver. The Jailer then tapped into the Rune Carver's mind to create untold armor and weapons for his Mossworn army. One of these armor and weapons just so happened to be Frostmourne and the Helm of Domination. The jailer wanted to use these pieces as a vessel to essentially establish himself in the world of Azeroth. The reason he chose Azeroth was because he sensed that there was a secret there that the first ones hid away. The Nathrezim, also known as the Dreadlords, which just so happened to actually be created by Sire Denathrius, we have now found out, acquired the Helm of Domination and Frostmourne, and bound Ner'zhul's spirit to it. It was actually technically Kil'jaeden who bound his spirit to it. I don't know if that knowledge was retconned or not, but anyways, that transformed him into the first Lich King. I made a video detailing the adventures of the Lich King, which expands on all this and how it played out, but pretty much none of the Lich Kings, Ner'zhul, Arthas, or Bolvar, really listened to the jailer and kind of did their own thing. Then if we take a look at the lore detailed in the Edge of Night book, which took place between Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm, we see Sylvanas Windrunner travel to the top of Icecrown Citadel and jumped off, plummeting to her death, committing suicide. She did this because Arthas had been killed and she found no purpose in living anymore, because she hated Arthas, not due to any uncontrollable love or anything. Now once she did this, she appeared within the Shadowlands. This was originally said to be the Void, but don't worry, the writers let us know now that it was the Shadowlands. Zovaal then sent Valkyr to encircle Sylvanas and ally with her. This was since the Scourge Valkyr lived through Arthas, but since he's dead, they needed a new leader. Anhald the Caller took Sylvanas' place within the Shadowlands, and the rest of the Valkyr traveled with Sylvanas back to the plane of the living. One of the things that was mentioned to Sylvanas when she was in the Shadowlands was that she promised to acquire the Helm of Domination from the false King Bolvar. This then solidified her pact with the jailer. Now we can fast forward all the way to Legion. So during the Burning Legion's third assault upon Azeroth, the Arbiter fell dormant for whatever reason. I don't know, I guess she was sleepy, and this allowed for all of the dying souls from there forward to actually funnel into the Maw, instead of being distributed amongst the other realms. This gave Zovaal more power, and the other covenants less power, because they had no one to drain their anima from. During this assault upon Azeroth from the Burning Legion, Vol'jin, the current leader of the Horde, was killed by getting stabbed in the back by a demon. And on his deathbed, Muzala whispered to Vol'jin to make Sylvanas warchief of the Horde. Sylvanas then tirade, killing as many people as she could, to then be sent to the Maw to fuel Zovaal. We also got Big Mama Elune, who plays a role in all this, because when Sylvanas torched Teldrassil, Elune came in and said, "Hey, dead Night Elves, I'm sorry you're all, dead and stuff, but you need to go to Shadowlands, Ardenweald specifically, because my sister, the Winter Queen, you may have heard of her, well, she's starving of anima, so she needs to use your dead souls to fuel her selflessness." Not knowing that the Machine of Death was broken, subsequently sending all of the Night Elf souls to the Maw. What a bit. Now we're in Shadowlands territory. Zovaal had his sights set on Azeroth and her soul, because he believed it to be the key to the first ones. Sylvanas then fights Bolvar atop the Frozen Throne, whoops him, and grabs the Helm of Domination and rips the thing in half, destroying the veil between Shadowlands and the world of the living. You then had the Jailer's Mossworn swoop in and take Anduin Wrynn, Jaina Proudmoore, Thrall, and Bane Bloodhoof, and drop them right in the Maw. The Jailer specifically honed in on Anduin because he believed he needed a mortal with a hero qualities to gain entrance into Bastion to grab the sigil of the Kyrian. The Knights of the Ebon Blade, along with the Heroes of Azeroth and a quick last-minute volunteer by Tyrande Whisperwind, leapt into the Maw to save the leaders of Azeroth. Tyrande just wanted Sylvanas dead for Burning Tree. They then met up with Jaina, Thrall, and Anduin. The Jailer threw Bane off a cliff because he didn't really see him as worthy, but they met up with him as well. They fought their way to the eroded waystone of the first ones to try and escape the Maw. It started to react with the champions of Azeroth, which surprised the Jailer, but he sent his minions to take them all out. Anduin used the light to fend off the Jailer's minions, while the champions of Azeroth escaped to Oribos. The Jailer then claimed Anduin, Thrall, Jaina, and Bane, and brought them into Torghast to be tortured. The adventurers of Azeroth, now called the Mawwalkers, reached the seat of the Primus within Maldraxxus and found the Primus's warning about Zovaal reaching the Sepulchre. Sylvanas found this out and told the Jailer, to which he brushed off and said, well, it would be dealt with later on. Sire Denathrius then proclaimed that he has been working with the Jailer and he's been sending large amounts of anima that he's been storing to the Maw to power the Jailer. Back at Oribos, Bolvar was able to peer into Torghast using the remains of the Helm of Domination. This allowed the adventurers to travel into Torghast and rescue Bane, Jaina, and Thrall and safely bring them back to Oribos. But no signs of Anduin were discovered. The Jailer then went to construct a new weapon to pretty much demonize Anduin with. Sylvanas asked the Jailer to leave Anduin to her, but he was pretty much like, nah. Then the adventurers gathered a raid to storm Castle Nathria and defeat Sire Denathrius, imprisoning him within his blade, Remornia. Sylvanas then approached the jailer once more about this, asking how they'll recover Denathrius. The jailer responded by saying that every soul has a purpose, and Denathrius had served his. Their new weapon, Kingsmorn, had been constructed and finished. Sylvanas took it to an imprisoned Anduin and used it to control him. So now he serves the jailer. With how strong the jailer was at this point, he was able to just summon portals at will, and he peered into Korthia looking for the Primus' sigil. Now with Anduin controlled by the jailer, he sent him into Bastion to Elysian Hold to retrieve the Kyrian sigil. As Anduin approached Kyrestia, she sensed the jailer's presence and demanded the jailer to release Anduin. Anduin then stabbed the Firstborn in the chest, extracting her sigil, then pieced out back to Torghast to give it to the jailer. His eyes were now set on Ardenweald. He sent his Mossworn to attack it, which was led by Sylvanas, while all the Covenants rushed to defend it. Tyrande Whisperwind confronted Sylvanas during this battle and revealed that she killed the Thanos Blightcaller, which ultimately surprised Sylvanas. The Covenants were successful in pushing the Mossworn out of the forest, but not until Anduin made his way to the heart of the forest and stole the Winter Queen's sigil right out from under her. The jailer's forces then immediately assaulted Oribos to take the Arbiter sigil, but the Knights of the Ebon Blade, along with the Covenant's forces there, pushed them out. The Mawwalkers and the Covenants then began an assault into the Maw, stationed in Korthia. The Mawwalkers were able to defeat the Eye of the Jailer with the help of Odin's Valkyr, and it retreated into Torghast. Hermir, which was the Primus' assistant, and Talgalon, who was the leader of the attendants there in Korthia, retrieved the Primus' sigil within a secret vault before the Mossworn could find it. It had a great magic tangled upon it that the Primus locked it with, unknowing that the Runecarver was in fact the Primus himself. The Mawwalkers and the Primus' assistant took it to the Runecarver to try and untangle the magic. After taking a look at it, the Runecarver's memories were restored, and he turned back into the Primus. The jailer immediately noticed this and appeared within the Runecarver's cavern. The Primus and the jailer began to fight while the Mawwalkers and Hermir fought off the Mossworn. Anduin then shows up out of nowhere, where he used the Kingsworn to extract the Primus' sigil from him and give it to Zovaal. He now had every sigil except his own. Then he poofed out of there. Now with everything going good with the jailer, the Primus then warned all of the Covenant leaders that they should forge new sigils, since the Mawwalkers had to travel into the Sanctum of Domination, and in case that failed, this allowed for a contingency plan. So the Mawwalkers did just that, fought their way through the Sanctum of Domination until they reached the top where Sylvanas Windrunner was. Now Sylvanas was able to stall long enough with her erroneously long 15-minute fight to allow the Maw to envelop Oribos, which allowed for Zovaal to retrieve his last sigil from the Arbiter. That filled the hole in his chest, and he gained a full set of armor. He then chained Jaina, Thrall, and Bolvar while Sylvanas yelled to Zovaal that they had everything that they needed. Zovaal then revealed his actual plan, which wasn't to break the Machine of Death and give everyone free will, as Sylvanas had believed, but instead create his own reality where everyone served him. This reminded Sylvanas of similar statements that Arthas made towards her when he was the Lich King. She then told him that she would serve no one. Zovaal had pity on Sylvanas in this moment, but as repayment, he gave Sylvanas her fragment of life back, which was stolen from her many years ago when she was a high elf and was stabbed by Arthas with Frostmourne, severing her soul into two. The jailer saw no use in Sylvanas anymore as she collapsed on the ground, so he unchained the champions and made his way through a giant glowy portal along with Anduin. Then the portal closed behind them. So Zovaal's story from beginning to end, all written within the last 2 years. This lore story is a bit different from my other ones, as there wasn't Shadowlands lore in Warcraft. It was all just in WoW. But you can, tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you like the story? Or not, I guess? Okay, that was a bit of a rhetorical question. But anyways, guys, if you at all enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like and you can sub to the channel for more videos like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.